Welcome to day 2 here at PTC. Hope everybody had a fantastic evening last night and enjoyed the bar stool pitch as well as karaoke and the contest there. We are excited to have you here though for day 2. Lynn Smullen, President of Edge at Edge Connects, and I'm so excited to cover this incredible topic all about AI at the edge. Incredible group that we have here. Before we get started on the great content, maybe we could do some introductions. Raj, will you maybe start us off?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. My name's Raj Mirpuri. I've been at Nvidia for a while, and I manage our NeoCloud business. We call it Nvidia Cloud Partners. And we have, thank you again for inviting us. Thank you all to Bill Barney. It's my first PTC in Hawaii, and we have a bunch of folks from Nvidia in the group out here in this audience, so thank you again for the opportunity. Over to you.
Excellent.
Thank you. Bevan, Slattery, SubCo is one of the companies I've founded. I've done data centers, networks, Megaport and XDC and Superloop and pipe, so I've kind of covered data centers, interconnection, subsea, and subsea is probably my jam, so I'm still doing subsea.
I think it's that, and you've got a bunch of jams actually. We'll cover. Steve.
And good morning, everybody. I'm Steve Smith. Great to see everybody. These conferences are wonderful because you get to catch up with old friends and make new friends and have these conversations. So I'm coming up on my 6th year at Zayo. We're coming up on our 6th year of being private in March of this year. And it's gone by fast, but it's been quite a ride.
It's been incredible. And how many PTCs is this for you?
Gosh, I don't know. What did you tell me? How many? This is number one?
Right. This is 48. Well, not my 48th, but this is 23 for me.
It's probably 20 for me then. 20? Something in that 20. Zip code.
20. Wow. Raise your hand if this is your first PTC here. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Welcome. Oh, thank you guys for all coming. We're so excited to have you. That's fantastic. Well, let's go ahead and get started. We have this incredible panel here. Like AI at the edge and inference at the edge in particular is a really exciting topic for us. We talked yesterday about, and you heard about incredible growth we're all dealing with on the training side, growing anywhere from 120 to 150 or even 180 gigawatts throughout the globe. And how do we actually tackle and make that work and bring AI to reality for all the things we want to do in life? That's part one, though. That's the training and all of the great buildings that are happening and expansions that we're seeing from a hyperscale view. But as we look forward over the next 2 years, inference at the edge and applications are going to eclipse and continue to grow to the point where of that 150 to 180, as much as 90 gigawatts of capacity will be at the edge and driving all of the growth and the development we see and all of the expansions. And what's key and critical to that is not just power, but things like network, right? And the efficiency and the resilience and the reach and protection around that. So really exciting opportunity for us as an industry as we see this shift from training to inference and what that brings for what we serve in terms of for our enterprise and our consumer customers from a global standpoint. Steve, we were here last year and you talked about how 2025 for Zayo was an incredible year. You deployed a significant amount of new fiber to start planning for both training but also this expansion to the edge. Maybe would love your perspective of how did last year go? Where are you growing from here? Where do you see inference shifting, where we're going and growing?
Yeah, our view is that, and I think I mentioned last year was a big pickup in our build out of new fiber miles to accommodate all the stuff we see coming with AI, thousands of new fiber miles, and I think that our prediction is over the next 4 years out to 2030, there's going to be somewhere in the order of magnitude of 170 million fiber miles put in the world to accommodate this around the long haul, and probably 40, 50, 60 million of fiber miles in the metros. So as it moves from training to inference, and I'm sure everybody in the audience is seeing requirements from both. There's still a lot of training requirements that we're all out pursuing and trying to help. Inference is starting to show up because all the companies are working on their use cases and their POCs. So we're studying both of it really, really closely. We have to. We have probably close to 20 new routes we're building right now, and these things take 2 to 4 years to build. These are big capital decisions. They're in the growth corridors that the hyperscalers know are where they're going to need capacity. Our requirements have moved from 12, 24, 48 fibers up to 4, 800, 17, 20. I mean, the amount of fiber we're deploying in these requirements is massive. And so that has changed dramatically the last 12, 24 months. And I'm sure most of the companies in the room here that are taking on these assignments regionally are doing the same thing. We're doing this on a national level because we carved out our Europe business, which we're still deciding what we're going to do with it. So we're totally focused in North America as we look forward.
Bevan, what have you been seeing? I know with Megaport and AUKUS, and you've got some significant growth that you've been doing in development. Maybe share a little about your perspective of where you see inference shifting our builds from a perspective.
Yeah, I think to Steve's point, the training is going to keep going because new models, all those kind of things, and I think the fracturing of models, or probably not the versioning of those different models for certain applications and specific areas, whether it's health, whatever it might be, that's going to continue to grow. The closest parallel I can see is the growth of cloud, where it kind of started pretty simple. We're all just uploading photos of our, on our iPhone, and then all of a sudden the applications started going there. And when I looked at cloud growth, and let's kind of move back 3 years before AI really boomed is the right word. The demand is the cloud growth from 2010, 2012 through to 2022, I suppose, post-COVID, has just been extraordinary. And what you kind of saw is the simple adoption of cloud through the complete use of cloud, the integration of cloud in every enterprise. And I think one of the best predictors of future growth is trend. So when I look at AI moving from a training to an inference standard, the inference standard might be less traffic, maybe, I'm not sure, but then you add reasoning to that. So when I look at this, I look at you need more fiber in the metro. You absolutely need, I think, better software-defined interconnections to take the inference tokens direct to enterprise. When you look at direct connect, we spoke about previously behind, that's going to be really important. And I think the third part, kind of where I'm looking at the subsea side, is, I caught up with Raj back in the Bay a few months ago, and I was just kind of sharing some data that I saw, which said like a gigawatt of AI is like 10 billion in data center, 30 billion in chips, but it's 25 to 50 terabits a second of data. And when you look at a country like Australia, for example, or Saudi Arabia, or wherever you're going to put megawatts and megawatts of these, gigawatts and gigawatts of these chips, you're going to need a hell of a lot of bandwidth. And so my focus is trying to build that capacity. You said 2 to 4 years, submarine cables are 4 to 5 years. So we've really got to start building that backbone, a little bit leaning over, but big cables, direct connection to the major markets, connecting where we can drop power and energy and training and inference as fast as we can. So my real focus is I think we're going to keep needing more fiber. The interconnections between data centers and enterprises where these things is going to grow massively and continue to grow massively. It's going to the compounding effect between cloud growth and then AI growth is going to be huge. And then we need the backbone between countries, which is where I'm really heavily focused now. We need to improve.
Just listen to those two conversations. The risk of underinvesting versus the risk of overinvesting in this bubble is debatable.
Right.
And you listen to all the stuff Bevan's doing, the stuff we're doing, two companies, and you list all the rest of the companies in this room. It is interesting to think about that. I mean, in bubbles, there's always this debate, and there's a huge debate coming on now that's trying to compare back to the dot-com. I think we'll get into it. It's a whole different discussion. Well,
it does start to sound quite similar, different in many ways, right, in terms of Nvidia and I would say national support, right, national team. We were in a meeting earlier about that. But you're right. It starts to look as we're trying to build, and we're built to support what we think is forecasted capacity that will be needed in 2, 3, 4 years. Will we build enough? Will we get the return that we need quick enough to fund and continue that growth. Raj, I'd love your perspective also from an Nvidia view, right? Because you're coming and supporting all of us in many ways and enabling the growth that we see here from a technology platform view. Where do you see inference playing relative to training, and how are you seeing that shift as we move forward strategically over the next 2 to 4 years?
Yeah, again, this is my first PTC, so it's made a lot of new friends, so really appreciate this. This is really, really good. You know, Nvidia pioneered accelerated computing, and what that means is building at a platform level. We are trying to drive platforms for generative AI at scale. And when you drive this at scale, you are worried about everything. It's a perfect balance between CPUs, GPUs, networking, and when I say networking, it's not just the internal fabric, the east-west spine, the entire network, to go connect many tens, hundreds of thousands of GPUs together so that the GPUs are not waiting for data, right? The worst thing you could do, you don't want to strand power, certainly you don't want to strand compute at all, because the TCO of GPUs working together to deliver generative AI or tokens is extremely a great time to be in that business. So is the electricity and power data going in, you got intelligence coming out, tokens. So we're trying to make sure that this is as sufficient as possible. And what that requires, of course, is to make sure the power delivery is incredible, the fiber, the connectivity, all of that is. So we're working across all of our partner ecosystem to ensure that in a supply constrained world, we continue to work with everyone to build out what we call a reference platform, a reference architecture. So this perfect balance now includes not just what I mentioned, but also includes everything that you build, right? It's power generation, it's power backup, it's fibers, connectivity, all the things that they talked about. All this is part of reference design. You want to scale fast, really fast, and if everyone has to start from scratch, it's never going to get done. So that's the first part of the puzzle. The second part of the puzzle, I think, Bevan mentioned was that the training is going to continue to grow. Training is going to continue to be very important, but also inference has grown many-fold. Jensen has mentioned, 10x, tenfold or more every year. And what that is that we're starting to see these thinking, reasoning models that are continuing growing at a tremendous pace. And what that means is the inference calls are going up. The number of tokens per call is going up. And this is huge. It requires tremendous amount of compute. And so we're always working with everyone to sort of figure out where are you going to land this compute. And we're starting to see now applications, of course, at the edge, where because we build the same reference architecture at the data center all the way to the edge, if you build once, you could deploy anywhere. And that simplifies the whole deployment process. Of course, you need the reference architecture to scale down as needed for an edge device, right? And so we have those answers and those solutions too. But the most important thing is making sure this is simple, and the software matters a lot. We're spending a lot of time on building open source models, but also more importantly, inference engines, Dynamo, and all these engines that we've announced that are integrated. That it's not just us. We have to make sure that the entire ecosystem is integrating the tech, so that when you go out to deploy, when an AI native, an enterprise, a digital native, or sovereign AI application goes to deploy these, they just work. A perfect example of this, for example, is ServiceNow. If you take ServiceNow's app, it's fully integrated with our software tech. You can train your model, you can customize, you can fine tune, and then you can run inference. They can help you. There's partners that can help you. You can go to GSI, and they can help you stand this up. So that's kind of investments we're making, working with all of our ecosystem partners to make sure every application, every tool, every library integrates our software, so that when you get up and running, whether it's a training or inference exercise, it just runs seamlessly. So back to your question, inference is going to grow tremendously. We're waiting to see all the applications, whether it's industrial AI, whether it's edge, whether it's a robot that's building a car, whether it's autonomous driving, whether it's something at a hospital, or retail, or financial services, healthcare. We're starting to see these edge applications continue to grow that are integrating this AI tech. And we're also starting to see where it's way beyond a science project. It's where it's true AI in a production environment that we're seeing multiple applications. Shameless plug for our GTC show that's coming up in March. We're going to be talking about a lot of this, including what our partners are doing at GTC. So please come join us. It's at San Jose, and it'll be a great opportunity to catch you up beyond what I shared. Also meet all the experts there.
Incredible. By the way, it is an incredible event. You bring up a really good point there, which is the ecosystem of partnerships. So I think one of the greatest strengths that Nvidia has built is this incredible ecosystem where you have brought together different software companies, hardware, technology, all of it. How do you see that changing with inference? And then I'd love to get the perspective from Bevan and Steve on how does that change how you're thinking of building the infrastructure side together with partners? Maybe Bevan, we'll start with you.
Okay. I'm going to kind of go back to that cloud statement I made before, that I think this has parallels. Cloud started very internet focused. You access it just through the internet. We're all just kind of photos and whatever it might be. That will be, and I think that's how a lot of people are obviously engaging with AI now, right. Whether it's ChatGPT or pick your flavor. As it starts getting more on the corporate layer, things you're going to start seeing. I believe that it's going to become more the direct connect model, where you're going to need fabrics. Right. So what's going to need to connect that ecosystem together is a fabric, and the example I gave before was Megaport, shameless plug. But that's a good example. It's in 1,000 data centers, it's in 27 countries, it's in every major market, it's there. If you just get plugged into that, it allows enterprises to directly connect with anyone in the world on a private, secure basis with guaranteed SLA. So I think that's going to be another level of growth. But then you've got the hyperscale or neo clouds that get large. They're going to become, I think, so big or big enough, they're going to want their own direct connection from wherever they are to as close as they can to the customer. So they'll be going, hey, if whether you've got 20 chips, I think, or 100 chips or 1,000 chips, it might be Megaport. Right. But when you're beyond that scale, you're going to need fiber pairs, whether it's across the US, across oceans. So I think that's where what you're going to see is consumer level, internet, enterprise level, fabric, neo cloud level, spectrum fiber pairs, or just truckloads of capacity direct to the country in which the tokens are being digested. So I think maybe there's a hyperscale mega fabric, so to speak, that might be somewhere in there, but I think that's where it's going to head.
You and I talked about that with the direct connect with Megaport, and how Agentic really will also push us in inference and how we create these private connections that aren't tromboning back or that are more efficiently and securely. Steve, how are you looking at that as you are building all the fiber deployments you have?
Well, from our standpoint, we have to look at both the long-haul connectivity as well as the metro connectivity as talked about. I absolutely believe that Bevan's dead on. And I think Raj's partnership strategy that he and his leaders are doing is around building that ecosystem, because today the constraints are power, land, and electricity. Those constraints will change as it goes to inference. Right. I personally think the connectivity issues will become a constraint when we start taking it down because of what Bevan said. I think we go from static data on the internet today that's feeding everybody to personalized data in the inference world. I think the demands on the connectivity are going to be enormous. Because I think the network architecture that's going to have to evolve here in the coming years to accommodate this is going to be pretty significant. So personalization, I think, is a big issue between enterprise and when you get to consumer. The consumer personalization, once we go to and we all have an agent on our devices and everything's personalized, The amount of, it's not just getting static, when you Google search, everybody gets the same data. Everybody's not getting the same data now, so I think it's going to be a really interesting challenge in the coming years. But I really think we're at an interesting juncture now where I don't know what the end state will be. Maybe you guys do. Maybe it'll be 80-90% inference and 10-20% training. We get whatever the end state looks like. But we're in the early stages. I mean, we're hundreds of billions of dollars into a multi-trillion-dollar industry that's going to unfold. And it's going to create opportunity for everybody in this room, and it's exciting. And inference is the next wave of this stuff, and it'll evolve. And there's going to be a lot of winners, and there's going to be probably some losers, just like in the .com. I think the ecosystem partnerships approach that was spoken about here by Raj is going to be in the winner circle, because I think you're going to have to be really, power, electricity, and land all got to come together. You look at all the developers now that are thinking about how to string all that together. I think the same thing's going to happen as you go to inference.
Totally. Who would have thought that in the data center industry we've all come from 20 years ago that we'd be talking about power plants and figuring out but I think what's also interesting is we're also driving innovation, and I wonder if that does happen here, where we as infrastructure companies continue to, the things we do drive innovation inwards into inference and companies and the like. Tell me a little bit about, Raj, I know that you, energy efficiency, sustainability is a really important topic with all of us, but also with Nvidia. How do you, what are you looking at from an Nvidia perspective relative to inference, and how does that play into some of the recent news and acquisitions?
Yeah. Well, great question. Just to get back to what Steve said on the ecosystem part, and as a company, we've spent a lot of time focusing on our developers. That's our number one goal, is how do we accelerate our developers on our platform, and what do we need to do to help them get there. So if you look at a company as a whole, we're so focused, singularly focused on that, and we spend a lot of time there, and that's never going to change. What is also important is if you look at it, within a year, we've been able to deliver 90% reduction in cost of tokens, right? Which is incredible. And we're doing this in as power efficient as a way as we can, right? If we live in a world where we're power constrained, then we'll have to continue to address every part of that supply chain, not just what we do. How can we make power distribution efficient? How can we make access to power efficient? All of that optimized to what we have available. And that's just the start. We have to continue optimizing everything we do across all of these various tasks. For our software perspective, we've made some various announcements around agents, agentic AI, and many of our partnerships around the world. Agents building software. Today, a lot of the demand is coming from AI natives that are building software ecosystems that can help drive productivity gains, significant productivity gains for training as well as for inference. Real world applications, real workflows, real workloads landing everywhere in the cloud. And what these are is it helps you do more, and that's also part of what Gen AI does. It helps folks deliver projects faster. It helps deliver software faster, deliver chips faster, silicon faster, and racks faster. And so across the entire supply chain, Gen AI is being deployed to help things go faster. Back to inference as a topic, right? It is delivering low latency, high throughput inference is going to be critical as we get more and more edge devices. We have various partnerships that we've already talked about. We are working with CDN folks. We're working across the board to make sure that they're delivering these edge devices. They already have access to the equipment, the installations, the sites. So those engagements are going to be critical as we work with them. Working with our OEM partners, working on ruggedized technology that can be deployed at scale, and making sure that the same software stack is useful. You don't have to recreate it at the edge is going to be important. A robot that's making a car has milliseconds to react. And so that has to be seamless. And we can't have to go back to a large data center someplace back in wherever it is. And so that's the part of the problem that we're solving across the board. And so you'll see a lot of different announcements on the edge and the inference as we go through the process, both in hardware as well as software. So we're super excited about inference.
Excellent. Bevan, how are you seeing that show up for you in terms of where you're expanding and growing, where you're from Megaport, but also from a SubCom view for subsea connecting? People don't think of subsea as being an important part of edge, but it really is. Can you speak to that a little bit and how you're looking at it?
Look, Americans think the edge is probably Texas, so the Mexican border. Or might make a joke to the north. But it's really interesting because I think when we talk inference as well, the CDN, I spoke previously about the cloud paradigm, and you made a good point about your phone. When we started, cloud on the phone was photos and email.
Yeah.
Right, that was cloud. That's the divide. Every app on your phone now uses cloud somewhere. And I think right now we're using ChatGPT or whatever it might be, Gemini 3 is. That is AI as we think now. Within 3 years, every app on your phone is going to be AI. So I think that's that. From a CDN perspective, what I saw happen over when we talk about CDNs and their growth, I remember when when I built my first cable to Guam back in 2008, what was really interesting was what some of the drivers behind how CDNs operate. And here's where I think we have to think about. The whole idea of CDN was the first time to respond. And the target used to be, they want to be 150 milliseconds anywhere in the world to load a Google search page. That was then it went to 100, right? Then it went to 50, and then whatever. So when I look at inference and I think where that's going, it's going to be the same thing, right? Because, there's already the kind of part where you do a query, and then you kind of get that, it's telling you what it's doing. It's kind of like an Uber thing. I'm not really sure if it's actually doing that, but it's telling me it's doing these things. Right? It's kind of like, there's a driver 3 minutes away. It's kind of like, I screenshot that now, right? And I'm like, there's my third driver and he's 20 minutes. Maybe it's because of my rating, I don't know. But I do tip. And that's big for an Australian, right? So,
you do have to give them a good rating too.
Exactly it. That's right. If he doesn't drag me along the road, he's getting 5 stars.
And a good tip.
Exactly it. So I've learned the hard way. But I really think the part at the edge and the CDN, we can just watch the CDN story play out. And I think, I don't know, Raj, it'd be great to get your feedback on this, is I just see from an AI world that where inference is going to be important is that if devices are going to use it, or let's just go to the human aspect, there will be global targets by providers to say 100 milliseconds or whatever it might be to first response, which means you can't be serving it from the US to Australia. You'll need to be in Australia or Japan or wherever it might be. So how CDNs worked is that they kind of built clusters in places, and then customer demand went, it's going to be 100, then it's going to be 50, then it's going to be whatever. So you start strategically putting these things in those locations. And that's the kind of first user experience. But the second user experience is going to be the apps that we spoke about. They're going to be seeking out the fastest response. And they'll be doing multiple models, multiple queries, different locations to get the same experience, whatever that experience is, to get there. So I think as we watch this play out, you think of CDNs, and you spoke about CDNs just before.
I did.
That's exactly how it's going to be. I think one of the most important metrics, apart from joules per token, which is, there's an inbuilt part about the energy efficiency piece, which is, it's a cost to generate a token, right? So the lower you use that cost, the more efficiency. So there's an inbuilt efficiency that they're going to drive for. But I think the second part is going to be, how quickly can you get that token within an economical response?
Yes. And just to add to what he said, data sovereignty is a perfect example of edge inference, right? You want to have the data you want to have the compute close to where the data is. And so we're seeing this as many countries. Gen AI should be democratized, right? Everyone should have that available globally. And so to make sure that they can solve their own problems within their countries, within their regions. And so helping them stand up the right inference technology at the source of the data is going to be so important. And so that one is, it also gives the advantage of low cost power, if that's situated right there, connectivity, which probably is already there. So that is another focus where what you use to protect your culture, your language, your official needs within the country, within the region, is a perfect inference at the edge example. And that's also a very big focus, is going to continue to be a big focus back to Bevan's point, you can't always go back to a US data center, or you can't go back to a data center in Europe. You have to be able to do this at the edge, and that's what's going to really drive productivity. And it has to be low cost enough where it makes sense for folks to continue to invest and continue to build up this technology. Steve, you said that well. We're in a long cycle of growth, right? It's not going to be something that happens overnight. It's going to continue to grow and evolve. And building these partnerships will going to be continuing and be important with telcos, with CDNs, all the folks that have access to some of these locations and technologies that we want to work with.
Well, the definition of the edge is definitely evolving.
That's right.
I mean, a couple of years ago, we thought the edge would be a tier 2 market, and maybe still be a tier 3 market, maybe a car, maybe your house.
Your handset.
But I agree with you guys. And I thought you had some key points in terms of latency is going to become very critical when we start inferencing, which we're already starting now. And you blink, it's 100 milliseconds. In 100 milliseconds, we could send data on a fiber halfway around the world in 100 milliseconds. So I think the pressure to get down to 50 milliseconds or something less than that for certain applications is going to be part of our world. I do think in the phone thing, I love your explanation of the phone. I think we've gone from typing commands years ago to touching icons today. I'm not so sure we're not going to go to just with the agents on the phone, just telling it what we want it to do. So you think about the device makers now, what they're doing, they're all working on changing that world. So, but the connectivity issues, the fabric you're going to be required, the latency demand, when it goes to inference, everybody's working about that. I saw the Akamai guys last night. You can bet, to your point, that they're rethinking the architecture of the old caching of way how data was moved and sent to metro. That is going to have to be reimagined in this new world, and that's all going on. So it's all exciting because it gives everybody requirements to go tackle to accommodate this and make it real when it goes to the consumer and to the enterprises. So, and it'll answer Wall Street's questions about it. Is there ever going to be any revenue from all this investment? and what's the return on that, all this capital we're putting in the ground? That's when it all starts to show up, when companies and consumers start using this stuff.
Yeah, I don't think we're far away from, we're already at inference as a service. We're seeing that around the world. We're not far away from edge as a service. It's just a matter of time. Yeah, it can happen fast.
Edge as a service. Absolutely.
I mean, you mentioned Akamai. They made an announcement in late October that they're going to deploy at their edge. So it is going to happen. It's bound to happen.
I do think you're all right there with whether it's Akamai or any of the other CDNs, and particularly with the acquisition of Linode, it's that easy expansion logically to have edge. Edge as far to the edge as it can possibly get from a compute but performance. But then you start thinking about security, privacy, data privacy, latency. How does that play into this? You touched on data sovereignty for a second, but how do you think inference challenges things like data security, privacy, as we look to build to support that?
Well, data privacy, security, regulations, they all have to catch up, and they will. It's just a matter of time. I think that there's tremendous momentum in helping making sure everything is secure and stable, so that enterprises and data sovereign AI can take advantage of that. And there's many partners that are already doing that. We've made some announcements with many partners that we can that are public information. But it clearly is going to be the only way. The resiliency is also going to matter a fair bit. And that's already in flight. I think that's a problem that is solvable. It's not a unsolvable problem at all. And I think the more the challenge is going to be is how do we make this at the edge, completely low latency and high throughput, so that there's no, so that the folks can stay productive and get their tasks done. I mean, I mentioned it, robot, but it's many use cases where we see this every day as sort of an obstacle to roll this out, and we're solving this one at a time. It's going to take a massive ecosystem to get it done.
Completely. Yeah. Where are you seeing some of those exciting innovations at the edge today actually coming to light? I mean, we've all talked about the build to support it. Yeah. Where are you seeing any enterprise interesting things? It could be healthcare, it could be manufacturing, robotics, but where are we actually seeing that? Where do you think it's first going? We'll first see it.
Yeah, well, certainly we're still already seeing that in robots and industrial AI. Even in building out a data center, just being able to visualize everything in real time and course correct help build data centers faster, right? And that's something that has to be done at the edge, and course correct, and what are we, somebody mentioned something about helping with regulations in Gen AI. I think it was you, Steve, this morning. But that's certainly, we're seeing some of that. We're seeing that across telco. We're seeing this in healthcare, in hospitals. We're seeing that in basically where agents can be deployed quickly. We're starting to see applications that are taking advantage of all of this Gen AI that's already been built. It could be a model that they started from, which is a standard, one of our standard models. It could be a mixture of MOE models. Basically a model, an agent that was built leveraging multiple models to be able to solve a certain problem. But we continue to see some benefits in various industries at the edge today.
I'm not sure there's a public or private board meeting or board that's not having these conversations about how many millions of dollars do we want to put into studying use cases and proof of concepts to determine, what applications we're going to launch. There's no question. In our company, for a good example, we're putting ChatGPT on everybody's desk. So we have 3,300 employees. We're getting ready to carve out, I think most people know this, the Crown fiber and small cell assets. It's another 1,700 people coming to Zayo. So we're putting ChatGPT on everybody's desktop so we can start to accelerate the learning. We're building a center of expertise to govern, because all the software, hardware partners coming in, they're bringing in tools, techniques every week. And so we've got to manage that so we don't get overcome. We're not duplicating. And then for all our core systems like Oracle and ServiceNow and others, we're embedding AI across and I'm sure most companies are doing things like this, and if you're not, there's going to be acceleration of some of that. We're a pretty big mid-sized company to go do that. Smaller companies probably can't spend much money. Large companies have thousands of people that are in the AI organization today, just dreaming up how to go absorb it.
I think at the edge, something that can be overlooked, but I'll give you an example. I had a nice Apple studio, kind of, whatever they call it, We've got so many iMacs, Mac Pro, God knows what it is, basically the brick. And I bought the new version of the brick to get as many GPUs and things in it. So, and look, if you get the latest iPhone, it says it can do certain things. Don't use it. But you'll get there in the next year or two. So the true edge of AI is actually probably going to be privately sitting on your device. I think that's, because what that gives you, it gives you the ability to control the data properly and control that. I think that's starting, but that's going to keep growing. I think the second part of edge in an enterprise standpoint is where they'll, very much like private cloud, you'll spin up a container, you'll spin up whatever, you'll take a slice of a GPU, you'll throw your own model on there and do that. And I actually think that's probably, and what that can give you is, and it's something which people do with cloud every day, right? I think that's going to become a bit bigger, because what it does from a governance standpoint, it can give the company some certainty around that the data's remain private. It's still within virtualized hardware that they control, that they can kind of put their finger on with their provider, and that the data doesn't kind of bleed across. I think the enterprise in the next period of time will probably, if I looked ahead 2 or 3 years, I think the enterprise will realize, look, API call to do that that the model maker, whether it's Gemini, ChatGPT, people will become very conscious of data leakage. I did a ChatGPT about, hey, what marketing should I do? If I was looking at whatever, it already kind of knew way too much about me and whatever. It gave a fantastic marketing response. It did take some great examples from some of my competitors and things like that, right? And you kind of, you obviously know someone in marketing who's probably uploaded some documents to get reviewed, whatever it might be. The leakage and privacy of corporate IP is insane already. And I think there'll be everyone kind of going, okay, we can use this, but it'll be on our own virtual infrastructure that we can put our hand in our own kind of caged area, virtual caged area. So I think that's going to be that part. And then I think that's where there's that edge. But then this machine-to-machine part where it's not handing out customer data, I think that's where it's going to be.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you hear this a lot we talk a lot about AI, but miss the point that AI is only as good as the data that it's trained upon. The answers that you get are only as good. The problem and the challenge we have is as enterprises is, like you said, securing that data and making sure that it's not leaking for IP issues, but it's also hallucinations and the other things that can happen.
Yeah, you want everyone else's data, but not yours.
Yeah. But not, you're right.
Yeah, keep yours internal, get that model.
Yeah, the models are getting amazing, right? And whether it's a standard model, it's a vision model. I mean, you could think about it. There's models being built per domain expertise. There's healthcare models. There's models for retail. I mean, every day you hear about a different model, and certainly, you got to work then test that each model out and customize it to your data. But Steve said it well. He said, every CIO or somebody, every organization is thinking about this. That inference is going to change that business conversation. It's not like, do I have an AI strategy? That's, what percentage of workflows can I deploy, right? How do I drive productivity? How does this impact my revenue and costs? And with full Gen AI assistance, so that is on top of mind of every enterprise, which is where we want to make sure that our ecosystem is ready to answer those questions and support enterprises as they deploy, build with confidence, and if every GSI, for example, they know how to build these agents and deliver them and high quality, secure, stable. And so that's where we're going to spend a lot of time and effort is in our ecosystem. If you're not already part of our ecosystem, please come join us. And we'd love to work with all of you. It's going to take all of us to get this done, right? And this includes my compadres here, Lynn's, all of us here to make sure that we're focused on delivering high quality, low latency, high throughput Gen AI across not just in a large data center, but all the way down to the edge, fully secure and stable.
Excellent. No, it's okay. Great.
Gonna keep everybody employed here.
Right.
Every time you come back here every year, like, who are you working for this year?
Well, I'll be Nvidia next year. No, look, we're coming close to the end. I'm going to start at the end with you, Steve, but I would love, looking forward as we shift from training to inference and we see all these exciting developments, what do you see as both challenges and opportunities over the next, let's say, 12 to 24 months, because things change so fast around here?
Oh, probably 2 or 3 thoughts come to mind. Unlike every other technology shift, and this is as big a technology shift as we've all experienced in our lifetimes, right? The previous ones were tools and things that we use. This is not a tool. This is a change in how we're going to work. Yeah. The output is intelligence, so it's completely different. How value is going to be created, how work's going to be done, how we lead our lives, and I think that's exciting. I think it's going to create a lot of opportunity for a lot of companies to do some interesting things. But I think there'll be some constraints, like there was. Anytime there's this level of innovation going on in scale, it hits a point. This happened in railroads. This happened in highways. This happened in communities. It hits a point where the systems were never set up to go as fast as it's required to scale this thing. Right. So the systems just can't go at startup speed. And I think we're getting ready to hit some of that. So we're going to see some new constraints. It's easy for me to say as a network provider that I think there's going to be some network constraints here as we go to the next phase for sure. Mm-hmm. We talked about latency. We talked about fabric. We talked about how to make all that happen. I think there's going to be a lot of softwarization of ease of use and how to consume all this stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's exciting. It's going to create opportunity for everybody in this room and partnerships. And I do think partnerships. I think Raj's company setting the standard for how to do partnerships. Because I think it's going to be. We've all talked about ecosystems for years. This is going to require complete coordination between the ecosystems to make it successful.
Well, and you've done it at the development layer, to your point, at that software layer, not just a channel type relationship, which really has served as an incredible springboard for us. Bevan.
I think the next 2 years, I think permitting and government regulation is probably number one. And we were just coming from a meeting before. We had some Homeland Security people there, and it was a real eye. It was great that they were there. It was fantastic they were there. And congrats to PTC for putting that together. It was absolutely brilliant. The CEO roundtable for people who are dealing with that. And the permitting part impacts everything. The speed, whether it's power, data center, fiber connectivity, submarine cables, the whole infrastructure. We're kind of, as you said, we're changing things at breakneck speed, but AI is actually genuinely so important to that. So I think that in that period is probably, I think permitting and enabling this to happen at the speed it needs to is probably number one. And if I look a bit further out, it's still going to be permitting and government relations, but it might kind of change and twist. I think the last thing I'll say is, from an infrastructure standpoint, and certainly from my network connectivity standpoint, we actually do have to build ahead. And if you're wrong in your capacity planning, you'll only be wrong by a year. You know what I mean? It will get consumed.
Right.
I'm really confident about that.
I agree with you.
Right.
Yep.
Raj.
Yeah, really quick. Again, if you think about mobile and internet and combine the two of them, this is way larger than that. It's going to impact all of us in a positive way. And Nvidia is passionate about Gen AI, passionate about working with all our partners. And I, again, want to end this by saying, please come join us. And more importantly, thank PTC for putting up an amazing show and getting us connected to all of you. This is a perfect bridge because we can do this together. It's not just building the best tech. It's about power, cables, undersea, fiber, connectivity, getting it all this together in one place. And if I didn't mention you, it's not because not that we don't love you. We absolutely need capital too. So I want to make sure that we realize it's going to take a village. So
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you for the great recap, all three of you. Please join me in thanking our fantastic panelists for this wonderful joining us.